Welcome to my first podcast. I'm your host, Imran Arshad. Thanks for coming over from either the Evolve Automotive YouTube channel or my Instagram account. I've been meaning to start this for a very long time as I'm interested in people's journeys of how they got to where they are now. My intention is that this will be much more about cars and will cover a wide array of topics. Big shout out to Jamie from Officially Gas for giving me the push to actually start this. In this episode, I talked to Matt Watson from Carwow and about his journey to becoming one of the most viewed automotive journalists in the world, leaving an already successful channel to join Carwow in the early years and growing this channel to over 5 million subscribers. Hi guys, and welcome to our first podcast. I have a very special guest, none other than Matt Watson from Carwow. You may have seen him drag racing many different cars on various drag strips. I don't know, what do you call yourself? You're the drag king or the drag queen?
I've got a t-shirt that says drag queen. I think that was a joke because Joe Achilles gave it to me because he has this business called Control Shift that he does with his friend.
Yeah.
They do the car, petrol head related t-shirt designs. He brought me one along, which I didn't realize that it said. Now I knew it said drag queen, but I also didn't realize that he had one that said drag queen, and he was just sorry. I got that completely wrong. This is how easy I am to confuse. He brought me one saying drag queen. I thought that was it. That was all he did as a design. But they actually had one called Drag King, which was the one that he was wearing, which he revealed later on in a video. But there we go. Yes. Am I the drag queen? Yes, I'm a little bit camp at times, so maybe a bit of a drag queen. Drama queen, drama king. I don't know. Drag king. Yeah, but one of the big things I do on the Carwow channel is drag races, which is how I got into it.
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, that just gives little people, a bit of insight into your fun nature, because a lot of people wouldn't even wear that t-shirt because they'd be like, oh, I'm not wearing that. But you're just up for a laugh, right? That's the impression I get from you.
Or I'm stupid.
I think it's the latter.
I'm easily hoodwinked. So, yeah, it's one of those three. Take your pick.
Okay, cool. So you've obviously got a Birmingham accent, so I guess that's where it started.
No, I have not got a Birmingham accent. I've got a black country accent, mate. It's completely different.
What's the difference?
What, have you got a Bedford accent, have you?
No, Luton.
Well, there you go.
I'm from Luton, but I don't know if it's a Bedford accent or not.
There probably is.
Okay.
But that's the thing. It's like saying that you've got a London accent when it's actually a Surrey accent. Although Surrey is kind of like pitching Birmingham and Black Country a little bit too high. They are slightly different, but for someone like yourself, it's a Brummie accent.
It's a Brummie accent. Yeah. So where were you born? Where did you grow up?
So a place called Walsall, which if you do much time driving up and down the M6, when you're getting near Birmingham or just past Birmingham, actually, you'll probably know there's this big RAC building that is Walsall. Have you seen that when you've been going at the M6? Yeah. Just as you've got through some of the bad traffic for Birmingham, that's where, around that area is where I was born and grew up.
Okay. And then young Matt Watson, was he into cars? Or did that come later on in life?
No, I was into cars. So I've always been into cars and I've tinkered with cars. And I've always had cars that were of interest or interesting cars. So like my early cars, one of the first ones, in fact, the very first one I bought was an XR2.
Oh, nice. Fiesta.
XR2, yeah. Mark II in white. So that was one of the first cars I bought. An early car I bought was a Mark I Mazda MX-5. So I was always into them, but I was also into motorbikes as well. But my close friends were more into cars than me. So they were the ones that had like the car magazine. So they'd have stuff like Performance Car. They'd have Max Power and stuff like that back in the day, which I'm sure you probably read. So Max Power, stuff like that, car magazine. But I never bought magazines as such. A, because I wasn't that into reading. I couldn't sit still long enough to read. And B, I'd rather spend my pocket money on sweets rather than something I was more into television, so I'd like watch Top Gear and stuff like that instead.
Sure. So we were just talking just before the podcast, and you said you were eating sweets, and then you said you were eating something healthy just to balance the sweets out. Yeah. The love of sweets is still there.
I eat a lot of sweets. I really do. I've got like big sugar kind of addiction, so it's not great because it's not great for your health and it's not great for your weight. But I do have a sweet tooth. In fact, I had an Amazon delivery today of like some industrial wholesale size of like sweet packet, one of my favorite sweets that I've had since I was a little kid, which are basically just coloured reformed pieces of sugar cube. And I'll eat those almost like some kind of crack addict, just having to have one more hit, one more hit, one more hit. It's awful.
So how do you not put weight on? Because you don't look overweight.
So I fast, so I'm quite strict about when I eat and
Okay, fine.
what I eat. That's not true. I Once the floodgates open, I kind of stuff my face or I'll eat a load of sweets. But I can just go, right, do you know what? I am not going to eat for 48 hours and I'll have no calories, and I can do
Oh,
that.
really? So you do a
Yeah,
two-day
yeah,
fast? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah, yeah. So when you're like, yeah, so I can do that. And people say they can't do it, but you can. If I can do it,
Mm.
you can do it, and you can live for a month without actually having any calories. If you
Yeah,
want
because
that.
I intermittent fast, so I will eat at like 7 or 8 o'clock, and then I won't
Yeah,
eat until like 1 o'clock the next day. So my first meal is lunch, and then I have
that's
dinner,
it,
and I have a few snacks in between, and I do that every
and
day.
that's it. And it's all about, as you'll probably do it for the same reason, it's about not spiking insulin, which means you don't lay down fat, which is not so bad for your organs. If you're constantly spiking insulin, it's not good for your body. And you also go into a sort of, it's not necessarily ketosis, but you can do this like regeneration. There's a theory
Yeah,
that
cell regeneration.
so your body
Yeah,
starts digesting the bad bits. It eats the
yeah,
bad bits first. So it's not digesting your muscles. It'll eat
yes.
your fat reserves. It'll eat all the glucose out your liver. It will then start eating cells which probably aren't much good for you. And there's various studies been done on mice and found that well-fed mice didn't live as long as mice that were put under strain of fasting. And there's two theories on that. One is the one that we just talked about, but the other one is that the body thrives on a little bit of stress, and that's why there's another theory about cryo, where it's not cryogenics, but when people expose themselves to like cold showers or jumping in ice
Yeah.
baths, that's a similar thing. You shock your body, and it somehow is good for it.
Hmm.
Theory, no conclusive evidence, but it gives me something to do.
Okay. And it works for you, right? So yeah, everyone has to try what works for them. If it works for
Yeah,
you, then it's all good.
exactly. Could be. It's correlation. Not sure it's causation. Could be.
Okay. So let's go back to the cars. That was a really good sort of diversion there, which is interesting. So Fiesta XR2, then MX5, and you still have an MX5.
Yeah, so I had a Mark 1 MX5, which was the good one, and then I subsequently bought the Mark 2, which is the not so good one,
Hmm.
and I supercharged that car. So I've been a motoring journalist since 2001. I used to work on a magazine called Auto Express, and I did a feature on Auto Express. And when you work for magazines, you can do features on things and you get bits for free.
Hmm.
And so I had about 5 grand's worth of stuff spent on this Mazda MX-5, which I bought for 2 grand. So
Hmm.
coilovers, supercharger kit, all the tuning and that stuff done for an article in our magazine. And I still got the car because what I could sell it for isn't worth what's gone into it. And you'll probably know, especially you'll know, even though you run it as a business, once you start tuning cars and like building them in the way that you want them and you put the effort in, it's very hard to let go of them. They're like
Yeah.
your baby, and you
Yeah.
won't get anything because you built it as you want it.
Hmm. Yeah, and especially when the cars get down to a certain value, it's like means
Yeah,
much more to you than whatever money you're going to get for it.
exactly. So the thrills I get from that MX-5 is way more than what could I probably sell it for? 3 grand, maybe 3 grand.
Yeah.
And it's just not worth it. It's not worth having people coming around my house to kick the tires and go, you know what, sir? Okay, I'll give you 1,500 quid. It's probably shagged, you know.
How many drag races has it done?
Yeah, I mean, it's only actually done one, and that was against Alex Kirsten from Car Throttle against his Mark 1 MX-5, which had a Jaguar V6 in it.
Okay. Who won that? I don't think I saw that race.
He won that.
He
But
won
I got
that.
the moral
Okay.
victory because he's got a kit called a Rocketeer kit.
Oh,
I'm not sure if you're aware
Zoom
of
is
it.
frozen.
It's an aluminium Jaguar V6, which can actually fit into the MX-5. It's got a long enough nose that you can fit this V6, and it's quite a short V6, and it's lighter than the 1.8 engine because the V6 is all aluminium. That's quite expensive to do, whereas my supercharger kit is pretty cheap. And he only just beat me, only just.
Okay, cool. My Zoom kicked out there for a little while, so I missed a little bit of that, but he won, essentially, is what you said.
He won, but I got the moral victory because his car was the amount he'd spent on his car was way more than what I'd spent on mine. He just beat me.
Yeah, cool. So what happened after the MX-5? So I didn't realize that you started journalism 2001. I had just left university at that time. So you got into that really early. I'm not going to ask how old you are.
I'm older than you, so quite a bit. That isn't even my first job. I did A-levels at school, and then I did chemistry at university. I went to Edinburgh University, did chemistry degree, and then I left and got a job straight away with an accountancy firm, PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Mm-hmm.
So
PwC.
So I worked for them as a chartered. I'm a qualified chartered.
You're a chartered accountant. Oh, mate.
Fully qualified chartered accountant.
Okay.
So I did that for 4 years. That's included the training, and then 1 year after I passed my exams, which was the hardest exams I ever did.
They're meant to be ridiculously hard. I've got a few friends that are chartered accountants, and they've said that they are the most difficult exams they've ever done.
Most difficult exams because you're working, you're studying, and they give you a 4-hour exam in 3 hours. It's a tactic to put you under pressure. But one of the things that I learned about passing those exams was it taught me how to get the low-hanging fruit. So you do a question in the exam, and they said there's 20 marks in it. You only need to get 50% to pass the accountancy exam. So you only have to be half right. You can be half wrong, and you're good enough to be a chartered accountant. So what you realise is that what I need to do is from each question get 50%. So you run through the questions, and you'll get 50% by answering all the easy stuff. Whereas the stuff that the harder questions, it becomes a bit like tuning, like with what you do. It becomes the law of diminishing returns. So that last extra bit of horsepower starts to cost so much more time, so much more effort. Yeah. So you basically learn to just do the easiest thing first and then move on. And that's not great considering our responsibility was checking the health of businesses.
You weren't responsible for the crash in 2007, were you?
No, but some of the companies
you were out by then.
PricewaterhouseCoopers audited them, like Enron. That was PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Right.
Oh yeah, those are fine.
They're fine.
Yeah, they're fine. We had this thing called materiality, where you'd only look at balances if they were above a certain amount. So you look at the company's net asset value, you divide it by, did some kind of maths on it, and you came to this figure that unless this number was above that figure, you wouldn't look at it. So if you ever wanted to just kind of get anything past the accountants, you just put in lots of little entries that would be like what they'd see as being material. And it didn't matter what you really did anyhow, because as like a junior auditor, you go through like businesses and you'd find things. I remember finding certain like dodgy transactions and things that were wrong. You go show them to the partner, then the partner would have a chat with the business owner, and then it would just all get brushed under the carpet.
Yeah, the carpet.
Yeah, because the business owner would look at it and go, okay, what's the real risk to the shareholders here? Blah, blah, blah. What do we need to do? How can we keep the client happy and the shareholders happy? Okay.
Yeah. So how long did that last then, that job?
Well, like I qualified, and then I didn't stick at it for too much longer because I knew it wasn't for me. So I'd be driving to audits or driving home from them, and this is a terrible thing to say, but I would think about whether I should just drive into the oncoming traffic to end.
Oh God, really? That bad?
Honestly, it was like, is this life? What is the point of living so dull? I can't do this. And the reason I got into journalism was because one of the guys I worked with, I met his wife, and his wife was the only person I'd ever met in my entire life who had spoken with any passion about their job as if it was their hobby. And she was the editor of a local evening newspaper. And I was like, wow. So you don't have to just go to work to earn money. It doesn't have to be a chore. You can actually do something you enjoy. She enjoys what she does. And I like the sound of what she does. Now, I was never particularly good at English, even though I got 2 A's at GCSE, but in my mocks, I failed. I don't know what happened. I managed to just somehow, I think they marked the wrong papers.
Gave you the wrong papers.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I mean, I don't know how this happened, but I got 2 A's. And I was like, what? Some poor bugger.
You got 2 D's.
Anyway, so I wasn't particularly good at writing as such, but I was good at telling a story. And I was also good at finding stuff out, which is actually more important. And that kind of tied in a little bit with being a chartered accountant, because you had to interview people and find out stuff about the business, how the business worked, and how their systems worked. So that tied in with that. And then the science tied in with it because of just a natural curiosity. So I had like the storytelling that I like. And then there's like the fact that I like to find things out, how things work. So I combined those, and I decided to become a journalist, and that involved doing a qualification called the NCTJ. So I studied to become a journalist, and I've actually got 100 words a minute shorthand, so I can write 100 words a minute shorthand.
I think you can speak that much as well.
Yeah, I know. I speak about 240.
Yeah.
The only time I passed did 100 words a minute was in the exam, and that's because I took a beta blocker, which calmed me down.
Okay.
So it got me like, for instance, you know when you do an exam and they give you like the 10-minute warning, and all of a sudden your writing just goes to absolute shit. It's almost like there's an earthquake and you're the seismometer.
Like doctors are writing.
Yeah, it's like that. Well, if you take a beta block, you don't have that. You're just
calm. You're
just chilled. And when you're doing a shorthand exam, because it's all under time pressure and someone is talking at a certain speed and you've got to try and keep up, you have that kind of end of exam feeling, but I didn't have it because I had the beta blocker. However, before I was very sensible, because I'm a scientist, I decided to test the effect of the beta blocker before I did the exam. And it's a good job I did, because when I tested it, I was catching the bus to go to my college. I remember seeing the bus come to me, and then the bus was coming, and I thought, oh, I should probably put my hand out to stop the bus driver, at which point he'd gone past. So if I'd have done that on the morning of the exam, I would have been too beta blockered out to have even made it to the exam. So it's a good job I actually tested it.
Okay.
So anyway, I became a journalist.
Okay. And so what was your first journalist job then?
So I was working for the South End Evening Echo, and I did that for a year. So that was reporting on local news stories, going to council meetings, which were almost as boring as accountancy, court cases, which was super interesting, but slightly frightening when the family of the accused, who probably stabbed somebody or beat them up, like lean over to you and say, "What are you writing about my son?" or what have you. And you're just shutting the shorthand and go, "Oh, I'm just doodling," and they wouldn't know.
They couldn't read it.
And so I did that. And then one of my colleagues said, "Oh, look, there's an advert here for this job on a car magazine called Auto Express. You like cars, don't you, Matt? You always telling us which car to buy." And, I was the person at work who advised their friends on which cars to have. And so I went for a job on Auto Express, got the job, and that's where it all started in 2001.
Wow. So you've really been in this industry for a long time. It's not as, because I think a lot of people have seen you for the first time on Carwow, maybe like myself, but you are a journeyed journalist and in the automotive world.
Yeah. So on Auto Express, I started off being the consumer reporter, where it was a bit like Watchdog for BBC, where we call it, people would write into us and go, "Oh, I've got a problem with my car. It's supposed to be covered by the warranty, but the manufacturer won't do anything." So I'd then get onto the manufacturer and I'd investigate the claim for them. So I was almost a bit like a no-win, no-fee lawyer. It's just that the pro bono that we did was that we get them in the magazine and give us content. So I did that at first, and then I started to write news stories and do features around cars. So I wasn't test driving cars. I was just doing like other stories, the stuff in the magazine that would pad out in the magazine that people would flick past to go to the road test. Content that people flick past. Yeah. But it involved coming up with lots of lateral ideas and different ways of looking at stuff. And I did various investigative features, such as I remember doing this one about how often police will actually investigate uninsured drivers. So I called every single force in the UK and pretended that I'd been involved in an accident and that the person who crashed into me weren't insured. And I had their details, I had their registration and all that. and only a half of the forces actually wanted to pursue it. And that went in the
Wow.
national newspapers. I did some other thing where I bought a car in France, drove it back here, and drove around getting bus lane tickets, parking fines, and I must have accrued £10,000 worth of tickets, and not one got chased back to the registered address in
In
France.
France.
That went on television and stuff like that. So I did lots of things like that. Then eventually I started to test drive cars and started to film cars in 2008. I started to do video on cars because
So you were in Auto Express all of that time from
yeah,
2000 onwards.
all that time. But from 2009, I set up a digital magazine. You remember those page-turning magazines that you'd look at on your desktop? Did you ever see any of those?
Yeah, I remember those. Yeah,
I did a
you did one of
car
those.
one called iMotor, so I
Okay.
edited that, which was kind of cool. It had like interaction in it and videos, and then that folded because no one wanted that.
It's probably a bit too early.
It was too early, but also no one wants that. Even like magazines on iPad do not work because when you're on your iPad, you're either going to watch Netflix, surf the internet, go on Amazon, watch
Go on YouTube.
You don't, you don't consume your content in the same way digitally as you do when it's in a magazine. And trying to make the two is just pointless.
Yeah, I mean, even to this day, I prefer physical paper books. I can't read a book on a digital device. It doesn't work for me.
No.
Yeah.
No, I read normal books now. I prefer it without the reflected light. And because if I'm on my phone, which is where I do most of my internet anyway, or even if I'm on desktop, reading's still a bit of work. And so I'll just much more likely go click on a video or go start, getting lost in Instagram or something.
So after that digital magazine flopped, what was next?
At that time, I was very lucky because all my staff, because I was editor of that, and I was actually before that I was news editor or news and features editor at Auto Express. So I was editor of iMotor. That folded, but they fortunately were starting Dennis Publishing, which owns Auto Express, were launching their version of What Car called Carwow, and they wanted to do lots of video content to help set it apart from What Car. So the USB would be lots of video content that's accessible and easy to understand. So a big part of iMotor was videos, but they were done in a sort of Top Gear, bit more like car. Basically, it was my baby. I did it as I wanted to do it, and they were like Carwow. And then they said, right, we want to do What Car. So I had to kind of do a hybrid of what I do now and what I wanted to do, something a bit more sensible, which is what Carwow was. And what happened with Carwow is that I steadily just kind of did like this kind of brief creep where I kept on moving the goalpost slightly. And occasionally the editor will call me and go, what you're doing, you shouldn't do like this, you shouldn't do like that. It needs to be more like that. And I'd argue with him and go, okay, so you told me to do this video more sensibly, and yes, you've had someone write in and complain. Well, that video that the person who wrote in to complain has referenced as being a good example. Have a look how many views they've got. Now have a look how many views mine's got. Yeah, it's times 10. So what do you want? So I did that, and I was always fighting that battle where it had a brand that the organization thought it should have, and they thought that this brand should extend to that on YouTube without understanding that actually, why on YouTube? You're on YouTube to get reach. Okay, so why isn't your goal then to get the maximum reach you can within reason? Why do you have to have the exact same brand identity on YouTube as you do for the website, when actually it's not a thing that's really a big brand anyway? Who cares? And that was my main problem with that channel. But I grew it from nothing to 400,000 subscribers, and it was just normal reviews of very normal cars done in the way that I review cars.
Yeah, I mean, the normal cars are harder to review because it's harder to get excited about them, right? I only deal with performance stuff. For me, that's if you ask me to do a review of a normal car, I'd find it very, very difficult. Whereas you find that quite easy. You can inject that kind of humor into it and make it interesting, which is your skill, basically.
Yeah. but that's because I'm actually interested in the normal cars as well. I
Mm-hmm.
find them just as interesting as the
Yeah.
performance stuff.
Okay.
And sometimes I prefer some of the more normal cars, the hot cars, like Volkswagen Golf. Yeah, I want to be on that. I want to see what the new Golf's like. I want to see what
Mm-hmm.
the ID3 is like.
Mm-hmm.
I want to drive the Hyundai i10 because I love the Hyundai i10. It's such a cool little small car.
Yeah.
I like all that stuff.
So
Um,
that enthusiasm is genuine because you just have a love of cars and you love breaking them down and seeing what they're about.
Yeah, but I also, equally as important to me, I have a love of informing people. I
Mm-hmm.
have a love of telling a story. I have a love of graphs that go like that. So I
Okay.
don't get with YouTube. You get a lot of stats, and I get into the stats.
Mm-hmm.
As much as like real hardcore petrol heads get into the stats of the cars, I get into the stats of YouTube and how YouTube works and how social media
Mm-hmm.
works. It's as interesting, if not even more interesting, of how the internal combustion engine works and how you can your side of
Yeah.
things, how you increase the performance by doing X, Y, and Z. I love all that as well. So
Mm-hmm.
it all comes together in this one package, which I find interesting, and I've been doing it for a long time, and I haven't got bored yet.
Okay. So that first channel you grew to 400,000. What was next after that, or how
So,
did that end?
so next was so that I was doing that. I also did Auto Express as well. So I was in charge of all the video content at Dennis Publishing, which
Mm-hmm.
also meant I was head of motoring video, which meant a slight oversee of Evo stuff, although I didn't present any Evo stuff because they wouldn't allow me near Evo because Evo, oh no, this is Evo, and you're not.
Old boys network.
Yeah, well, they lie, but who would you drive like Hyundai 10s? You can't you can't possibly be able to evaluate a performance car. Oh, no, you can't do this, and also because Evo was very separate to Auto Express, which was a bit kind of seen as being a bit like the common, less cool brother of
Mm-hmm.
Evo. Even though it was bigger, more and made more money, it was just less cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, less cachet to it. And Car Buyer even more so because it really was just all the everyday humdrum cars. Let's talk to people who don't really know about cars. Let's do the video so that your mum can watch it.
Yeah.
Um, which was really good because in a way I was able to then review both cars, but also, and this is key, the way I do my videos is that I think that someone can watch it with their other half who isn't that into cars, who might get bored with something that goes too in depth or is too enthusiastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. So that's what makes them interesting from that perspective. Because if I'm watching them and one of my kids, my daughter's with me and she's watching a video and she's not that into cars, she can watch it for the entertainment value, like with a stick of
Yeah,
truth and all that kind of stuff. Those little quirky things just make it
yeah.
a little bit more exciting. I think for me, the funniest video or the one I enjoyed the most was it the GT2? Did you do a video on? I think it was a Turbo S
I've
or
done,
GT2. That was hilarious.
I can't remember what I did.
You've done so many.
I've done so many videos. I've done so many hours. I've done like views wise. I've done in total. I think I've done 2 billion views,
2 billion. That is a
which
huge
is
number.
I think that's a day in Baby Shark. Da 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 da. Baby. But I've done 2 billion views. I don't know. I don't think there's any other person on YouTube, any car guy on YouTube that's done that, and I'm including the Top Gear guys as well. Because even though their channel's done, I think their channel's done like 3 billion.
Mm-hmm.
They won't like Clarkson won't have been in every single video that's gone up. There's also ones from the more recent series. So I think globally, I might be the most watched car guy on YouTube ever. And yeah, I'm not modest.
How does that make you feel? Because that's a huge achievement.
Well,
Do you get recognised everywhere you go?
so I get recognised quite a lot, but not as much as say if like Chris Harris would do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not conflating myself with being like a Chris Harris or anything like that, because he's much more of a household name within the UK and within petrol heads. But the Carwow YouTube channel reach is global, like hugely global because of YouTube. Like I get spotted in the weirdest places, you know, it's just strange. Various lounges all around the world. It's just odd. It's just odd sometimes where I get spotted by various people. Like I was in Namibia and some guy who was like delivering stuff was like, oh, Carwow. And then I've had things where I remember going into Croatia, and then the guy took the passport control guy took my passport and was like looking at me like shaking his head like that, and he was just like, yeah, I didn't like what you said about the BMW M3. And it's just, you know, just random stuff like that. I've had pilots chase me off a plane and go, oh, I really thank you for your videos, really helped me choose this. It's just random, and I get it quite a lot when I'm driving because people recognize my car. It's a green RS6. No one else has got a green new RS6. So I often get honked, and I think people are like honking me for bad driving or road raging me, and then they're waving and stuff like that. So I do get recognized, but it's not like being like on telly, which is good in a way because it's only people who actively like what I do that will recognize me. So you're not getting bothered too much, and it's so infrequent. Like if you average out once a day, maybe, let's say, it's nice. It makes me feel like people are enjoying the stuff that I do.
Yeah, gives you some validation. Not that you need it.
Yeah, you do. I don't know, sometimes you're having a bad day. Don't read that's one thing about negative comments.
Don't read the negative comments. I was going to talk to you about that, actually.
Okay,
but before we come to that,
all right.
Well, I want to know how Carwow started with you.
So Carwow. So I work at Auto Express. I work with a chap called James Baggett who owns a business called Blackball Media, and they do a lot of other things, freelance work for car manufacturers. They also provide copy for news press association, and they do a magazine called Car Dealer Magazine and a website which helps car dealers. An old friend of mine, he was at dinner, some event with my now CEO, the guy who founded Carwow, James Hind. And James Hind was saying, listen, we really want to grow our business from what it is. It was, I don't know, they had about 10, 15 people. We want to grow the business. We want to do video. And my mate said, oh, you want to have a chat with Matt Watson? You know, he does car buyers, growing it to this. And you should have a word with him. So anyway, we met up, went for some food, met a few times. And I was pretty happy with my lot at Auto Express and Car Buyer. And, you know, it's an established title with an ability to just get cars like that. And then there was this guy who, approached me from this business, Carwow. And I thought about the business. I thought, yeah, this has got legs, this business. I'd like to be, you know, print and stuff is dying. Here's a chance for me to do something that's interesting and like I can grow it from the ground up and I can shape it, and that I can be almost rather than like a cog in a big wheel, I could be like a more important player. And I really got on with James, and we had like the same ideas of how video should be. And I also liked his attitude. He's a disruptor, like the business. Carwow is a disruptor in the marketplace, and he takes risks. He's very entrepreneurial. I really like that. But I wasn't that keen to leave as such, but it was quite an interesting opportunity. Anyway, we met up, did some negotiations. I mean, let's not mess around financially. They just got a round of funding in, and so he's like, yeah, this is what we'll do. And I remember I said, you know, I'm a bit concerned that he could just die. And he goes, don't worry, what we'll do, we'll just burn through the cash, and then we'll just, you know, we'll be out of it in 18 months, but we'll have fun while we're doing it. And I was a bit like, my career all over. And then I was got the phone to some investors and stuff like that, and the investors were going, well, we think the business, we hope it will be worth X in this amount of time. And I was like, okay, right, now I'm interested. And I could see how things were going at the publishers, how they're being squeezed. But it was quite a risk to go to this thing that not only did very few people know, but also it was seen in the industry as a disruptor. So the manufacturers weren't on board. And I'd also grown this thing, Car Buyer, from nothing to 400,000, and I was worried that I'd just get lost over in this thing, you know, just disappear on YouTube as I moved across, you know, starting out with no subscribers again, without the weight of like being able to phone up a manufacturer and go, it's Matt from Auto Express who you will lend a car to. So now having to obviously trade on my own relationships, but also, wangle and start lower down the pecking order for cars. But made the jump, set it up, got given a budget, got given the ability to just run the whole shebang rather than being, being in charge of all the content and editorial, to run it in the way that I thought was most efficient. And more importantly, just the creative freedom to do not necessarily what I wanted, because all I wanted was for it to be a success.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy, because I'm not trying to do anything artistic. All I want to do is be able to I want to reach as many people as possible. How do I go about reaching as many people as possible in the car sphere with cars? Okay, I'm going to do that. And if it had been me sat in a car singing Baby Shark for every review,
that's what you do. Yeah.
I don't care.
So at that point, when you were negotiating the finances, you don't have to say if you don't want to, but did you negotiate any equity?
Yep.
In the business. You did. Yeah. Well done.
Yeah. I mean, and it's it was offered. It was all part.
It was offered. Okay.
It was offered, and subsequently, as it's grown, there's been more. But it's part of the mentality that if I own this tiny little bit, I'm more invested in it.
I'm more invested in it,
and it's keeping you in, because if you think about it now, I get approached a lot. Now, I don't want to leave Carwow. And I want it to, and like the business as well, doesn't want me to leave. We don't want to do that. We want to continue working. So why not? It's so good. It works so well together. I don't want to. I really believe in the product of what they do. That's one thing I really like about it. I just believe in it. If I didn't work at Carwow and my mum was looking to buy a new car, I'd go on Carwow.
Yeah.
I'd go on Carwow.
Yeah, you would.
And so,
isn't there a really high percentage of new car sales they're driving at the moment? I saw a stat on your LinkedIn. I can't remember what it was, but it was like 15% of all new cars. Or something. Yeah.
Yes. And depending on the model and the type of car, it can be 25. I think I don't remember the model. It was a bit of a niche one, or it was a rollout. I think it might have been the Golf E when they're rolling out. I think we sold all of them. All of the last.
Of them. Wow.
Yeah, all of the last. I think we're the biggest Volkswagen dealer
in the country. So you talk about influencers. You guys have real influence. That's what real influence is.
And this is the thing. The reason we do YouTube, the reason we did it, first of all, we weren't really sure how it was going to work and what it was for. So the original idea was that here it is. It's on the site. So you go onto the site. You go on Google, you'll either get served an ad with Carwow, or you come through organically to one of our reviews. And on that review, you can watch a video, because people probably would rather watch a video on their phone than read text, because it's just easier to do that. And you get a better feel for the car by watching a video. So that was the general idea of it. We need somewhere to host these videos, put them on YouTube. Also, that YouTube then can drive some people directly with click-throughs to go to the website. And maybe tell them about Carwow as well, brand awareness. We didn't have adverts at first on YouTube, not for a year and a half, because we didn't want them on our site. And we thought, well, we don't want people to not watch the videos for as long as possible because of ads. But we just that's how we played it. And then it grew and grew and grew. And then we thought, it's got quite big now. Let's put some ads in, see what happens. Made no effective view through. Then we started earning money off the ads as well. And then it grew and grew and grew. And now YouTube drives 25% of all Carwow sales. People who go and use Carwow first heard about it through YouTube. So it's a hugely valuable marketing tool.
Yeah. So at the moment then, so you grew, so Carwow actually started from zero. So I didn't know that. So from the YouTube, there was no one doing it before you came on board.
No. The channel had been set up where... I think it's 2014. It'd been set up, and I think they housed one advert on it, and they had a couple of interviews that the CEO did on BBC News or something like that. And someone else had filmed a car, but with no watchers. Right. There was no subscribers really, probably about 30 subscribers. So channel history actually dates back to like 2014, but I came on and did put the first review live in 2016, April 2016. That's when the first video review went live. We've never paid for any views. We've never paid for any subscribers because it doesn't work. Don't do that. It's not working. Because it knackers your engagement and the algorithm will sniff it out. And it's all organic. And I remember when I first joined, really thinking, do you know what? If in 2 years I can be halfway to what we were in terms of subs of Car Buyer and views. So Car Buyer, 4 million views a month and 400,000 subs. If we can get there within like a year, 2 years, I'm going to be pretty made up. I just don't think it's going to be quite as big as Car Buyer. And hopefully the CEO won't mind and he won't fire me.
So what happened in the first 2 years? Where were you at?
1 million subs, and I can't remember what the views were, but 20 to 30 million views, 20 million views a month.
Yeah, so the first time I came on or brought one of my cars onto your channel was the green M3, and that was probably around 2018, and you were just over 1 million subs.
Yeah.
And here we are 3 years later, and you're over 5 million. That's just astronomical. That growth is just insane.
What's interesting about our growth, I think, compared to other channels that I've looked at, and our view growth, is like that. So others are like this. They're like they spike and drop, spike and drop. We don't have this this constant, steady growth. A bit like compound interest. It's like investing in an index tracker. That's what it's a little bit like. It's like over the longer term, there's this steady line of just growth. I don't know how long that's going to sustain for. Hopefully, well, we're looking at ways of maintaining, keeping that growth up. But we do. Most views we did ever in a month was in August at 75 million views. We are heading towards, I think we've done 1.7 billion views in total on the channel. In terms of hours watched, I mean, where's my phone? I was going to get my phone. When is it? It's before the Torah was written, if you look at hours. Wow. It's well before Moses.
Yeah.
It's like, honestly, it's like so much watch time.
So you said you weren't doing ad revenue first and then you started doing it. You don't have to answer this, but does the ad revenue now cover at least the production of the videos? It does. Yeah. Okay. So because I don't think people realize, because you've not done a behind the scenes of a Carwow video shoot, but they probably don't know that you film like 5 videos in a row. So like if somebody turns up there with a car, there's like 40 other cars there because you're filming so many different videos at the same time, and it's like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. We can film more than that as well. Like the other day, we filmed more than that. It depends what's going on. If Jan is there, it's slower because he likes to go on his phone.
He likes to go on his phone and start looking at stuff before the races.
That's actually, it's not fair on him. If it takes a bit longer, if it's me and him, because there's more banter. Yeah. Just takes up a bit more time.
So
that's for the drag races. Whereas in-depth reviews, I'll film 2 in a day. So in-depth review, I film 2 in a day. Doesn't have the same team. It'll just be 2 film people in that case. And then sometimes if we're flying abroad, it'll just be 1 car in a day with 1 person. But it's, it's fairly simple stuff. It's not like telly. There's no sound crew. But it is a very well-oiled machine, and we know what we're doing and what it's going to look like.
So where do you see the channel going in the future? What are your sort of predictions or your hopes for it? If you're at 5 million now, where do you see it in where do you see it in another 5 years?
Okay, so if you look at Social Blade, it can give you projections, which can be way off. But in 5 years, I think maybe even within 2 or 3 years, we'll have 10 million subs. Where our views will be, that's harder to tell because there might just be a ceiling in a way of the amount of car content to be consumed on YouTube. But because we're so global, much more than other channels, we'll probably benefit from other markets opening up, like, you know, more and more people in India and Pakistan watching stuff. And they are like, we're quite big in India. And once that takes off and really takes off, you know, we will, that could really hit our numbers overall. If we can grow a bit more in the USA, I mean, it's still our second biggest market after the UK, but there's the opportunity there. We're also looking at doing different types of content, which will give us wider audiences, just to tell more people about Carwow and what it is. So there's lots of different strategies we've got for doing that. I ideally would like to break through the 100 million views in a month. That's my next target. At the moment, February we did 58 million, but that's a short month. We normally do like around 60 million, a bit over 60. Which is pretty good, but I want to take that up a bit higher.
So that's like a view for every person in the UK, basically.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's people watching multiple times. I think the average view per video is about 1.2 or 1.3 for a video, and then it's the multiple people watching your channel a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so where do you see the content going with more electric cars coming? Just more of the same, but with electric cars, like the thing with the drag races?
Well, that's one good thing about it, is that electric cars are set up very good for drag races. In terms of reviews, you review them like normal cars. What might affect things, though, is just the whole enthusiast element. The whole, you know, are electric cars as interesting as internal combustion engine cars? And they have a novelty value right now, but there's just not quite the differentiation between them. If you think about how like each different engine can feel, and how an electric motor generally has a feel to it, and it either has more or less power, whereas like a BMW, like an AMG 4-litre V8 has a different feel to it than BMW 4.4-litre V8. Very like, they do have a different feel, even the way they vibrate and the noises they make. So you don't have that differentiation that you do with internal combustion engine. Then there's the whole fact that electric cars are heavy. So no matter what you do, they are not as fun to drive. You can't have anything, not yet, that's like the GR Yaris, because you knacker that nimbleness that it has because it's relatively lightweight. So it's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out. But it affects me less, I think, than some other channels, because people still buy cars because we like consumer goods. Cars get you from A to B, and most people aren't petrol heads who buy cars.
No.
They buy cars because they're a luxury item, because they aspire to them, because they need them, all different other reasons other than the fact that they enjoy blasting down a country road, because let's face it, very few people get to do that.
Yeah. And then especially with things like speed limits coming in, it's harder as an enthusiast actually to go out and enjoy your car than it has been previously.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the better cars get, and the quicker they get, it is even harder to extract the performance or feel like you're really pushing the car. And that's why I say that I do even enjoy cars like a Hyundai i10, because you can rinse that car out, hurl it around roundabouts, and you know, it gets to the limits of its grip pretty quickly. And it's got a manual gear change, a light clutch, it's flick. It's actually good fun. And that's why I was so blown away by this Toyota GR Yaris, was because of just how light, nimble, fast, frenetic, how much you felt from it, how it was like driving an Evo 6, how it, you can go do that. Then when you're on your way back from the twisty road, you can get on the motorway and you put the auto cruise control on and it'll do everything for you. Brilliant.
So
well, they can't really talk Bluetooth because it's a bit noisy in it.
So we've got a GP3 and we've got a Yaris, and the GP3 owners, because I'm kind of involved in both groups, and the GP3 owners hate on the Yaris so much. And when I said, they asked me, okay, which one's better? And I'm like, well, GR Yaris is better. They went absolutely nuts. They couldn't understand what I was talking about. But it's absolutely amazing car.
Yeah. The Mini GP, it's not great.
No.
It's not. It's it's very difficult to extract performance out of it because it's just all
Just
over
wants to
the
go
place.
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes everywhere. Tram lines. It's got an automatic gearbox as well, which takes some of the fun out of it. And it's not exactly a brilliant automatic gearbox because it's not a dual clutcher. It's an
Not
ACID.
ZF. Yeah.
Auto. Yeah, it's not a ZF because the engine's located the wrong way. It, it it's a Mini that someone's tuned up, whereas the Yaris is a car that's been built from the ground up to be what it is, and it's a car that the big boss man at Toyota is involved in. Now, if you're think about A, the budget you're going to get, and B, how hard you're going to work if you're a Japanese person, and Akio is what
he's overseeing the project. Yes, his pet project.
You think about the heart that they, Japanese anyway, compared to us Brits. I mean, my mates used to work at Longbridge, and they used to have fun seeing how loose they could put in screws. That was like part of it.
What year was that? We'll make sure we avoid cars from that year.
In the 90s. So they think about how fastidious they are in that, and then you take it to the next level. The master craftsmen are on this project, knowing what it is for the company. I mean, you can just tell it. You can tell it. You can just tell how good this car is. You really, really can, and it's just so solid, so well built. People are going on, oh no, that 3-cylinder engine, oh it's gonna go pop. No, it ain't.
No.
If one 3-cylinder engine is not going pop,
it's that one.
It's that one.
Yeah, because they've tested that.
Yeah, one wheel somewhere, but the numbers will be bloody small.
Yeah, and that's what I found. Go on.
It's a car that's the Mini is a marketing car, so it's got profit in it. There's profit in that. Ain't no profit in that GR Yaris. All the costs of that, the development has been put through Gazoo Racing, through their rally team. That's where it's gone. It's got marketing budget into it, not out of it. It's nuts. Yeah.
Yeah. So have you still got your one?
Yeah. So I've got a long-termer from Toyota, so they've lent me a long-term car, but I will be buying it. It's never going back.
At the end of the term. So what was that, 1 year loan?
It's a 6-month loan, but I will buy it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I think so I went to Tokyo Auto Salon, not last year, last year, just before everything closed down. And there was a huge crowd around the Toyota stand, opposite the stand we were on, distributors. And I couldn't understand what everyone was looking at. I was like, Supra was last year, what's everyone looking at? And I went over there and I saw a Celica GT4 and then the Yaris GR rally car, and then this Yaris next to it. I didn't know anything about it, and it's got wide arches, it's got huge brakes. I was really confused at this stage. It's got like a forged carbon roof, and then it had the skeleton of the car next to it and the specs. And I just saw manual gearbox, 2 limited slip diffs, and I was sold. I went back over to the stand. I said to my business partner, "You need to go and look at that car." He went over because he's same age as me. We love like 80s cars. He's had a Golf Rally. We've had loads of really interesting cars. He came back over. He goes, "Yeah, we need to buy it." So I basically emailed the Toyota dealer from my phone in Japan and said, "I want to order this car," and we got it really early. But I think it's going into 2022 now.
Yeah, 2-year waiting list. So I was speaking to the guy who runs the press fleet at Toyota. He's like, he can't get any for like 2 years. It's just like. They can't get any. I mean, it's gone crazy. Not helped by people in my line of work who've just been waxing lyrical about this car, and you can understand why though, because it's small. It's perfect for British roads. It's it's got the suspension travel. It's great for British roads. It's got the stiff chassis, so when you hit a bump, it can cope with it. It doesn't fall apart, which means it's great for British roads. It's a turbocharged engine that. Because of the gearing, you're pretty much always on boost, and it spins, and it's not, it doesn't just peter out. It just gives you everything until the red line, and then you can obviously switch to 4-wheel drive system for it to be a bit more to 70% at the back, which makes it feel a bit more like neutral. And then you can put it 50. I never run it in the normal setting or in track mode, which you really feel it engage the front diff more, like really claw out corners more. I actually, you're talking about the brakes. The brakes are amazing. So I had 3 cars on track last week. I had a M2 CS, I had the GR Yaris, and I had a Fiesta ST. The Fiesta's ST were like brakes were like butter. They just fell apart after 2 or 3 laps. Utterly rubbish. The BMW was on carbon ceramics, but it's a heavy car. It's like 1,600 kilos. So the brake, when I jumped out of that BMW and having been in the Fiesta, I was like braking for corners in this GR Yaris. And by the time I got to the corner, I was like doing 2 miles an hour. So I had to just like go much further before I'd brake. And the brakes just stood up to it. And yeah, my lap time was quite a short lap. I did like 1 minute 12 round this track in the CS, 1:14 in the Yaris and 1:17 in the Fiesta. So the Yaris was much closer to the BMW, even though the performance was closer to the
Fiesta.
The Fiesta. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so the brakes on, that was one thing I noticed, the brakes are actually bigger than the super brakes on that Yaris. That's how overkill that car is. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's insane. And the whole car is really strong. So my car's actually going back to Toyota for them to have a wee look at it, because I hit a curb coming home in the dark, a bit tired, and it was a roundabout that had like a curb in it to separate the traffic. I didn't see this curb, and I hit it, and I thought I'd ripped the undercarriage out of the car. Got out of the car.
No damage.
Fine. No wheel wob. No. And I think the spec that it's done is to be able to cope with like hitting, rallying, hitting stuff really hard. If I'd have been in my RS6, it would have shattered the wheels. If I'd have been in my Porsche, the car would probably have disintegrated. Yeah. But we'll see. I mean, I might be saying a different thing next week when they go, mate, you've actually bent the chassis. So what another car? It's going to be another 2 years.
Yeah. So yeah, with that car, I think it's one of those, the hype is definitely real. Whatever anybody says about that in a positive way is correct. And it really is that good. But coming on to, you mentioned a Porsche as well. So what's your current car collection or stable?
Okay, so the cars that I actually own myself currently, a Fiat 126. It's actually a Polish Fiat 126. So it's a 126, and when there was the Cold War, before the Berlin Wall came down, the Polish had rights to build the 126 in Poland. And so everyone had this car. It was like the only car you could buy pretty much. And so everyone had one. I had a Polish girlfriend for a little while, about 5 years ago, went over to Poland, saw the little 126, and they were so plentiful and so cheap that I went and imported one back to the UK. So I got a Fiat 126. Don't have a Polish girlfriend, still got the Polish car. Easier to...
you didn't drive it. You didn't drive it back, did you? From Poland?
No, actually. So I don't know if you've ever been to Poland, but Polish people are so super friendly. And so I made friends with one of my ex-girlfriend's mates out there, and he sorted the car out for me, and he even sorted a trader to bring it back. And a lot of Polish people obviously live in the UK, and they'll go home quite often, and they usually like double up, like doing a bit of transporting. So this guy who was driving to and from did a bit of transporting, and he'd bring cars back from Poland and vice versa. And so I got this thing like transported back for something like 100 quid or 200 quid, something really cheap, which would have been it was less than the fuel it would have been to drive it. And imagine driving a 40 mile an hour Fiat 126 from Poland to London, which was what I was probably going to be doing. So
you'd miss all the Carwow adventures. You'd still be on your way back. I'd have broken down some kind of forest somewhere, then I'd have been eaten by bears. I don't know. So there's that. There's the MX-5 I've already talked about, the supercharged Mark II MX-5 with 190 wheel horsepower. Then there's the Porsche 911 996, very early one, 3.4, manual, Carrera 2, cable throttle, no driver's aids, dead simple basic car, with Öhlins Road and Track, GT3 hollow anti-roll bars, fully polybushed, limited slip diff, everything done to it. But it's still the 996 that everyone hates because it's got the Friday headlamps. Yeah. But it's amazing to drive. Amazing to drive. And then I have a Suzuki Jimny, a brand new Suzuki Jimny in black. Those are my cars that I own. And then my work cars are the Audi RS6, which is a long-termer from Audi UK. I need this car to like film stuff with and do reports on. And the GR Yaris. The RS6 will be going back. The GR Yaris, hopefully, I'll be buying. Staying
with me. add to the collection.
So the Jimny, is that you were planning on modifying that in some way, or did you decide to do that in the end? Because I knew you were talking about doing something with it.
So I wanted to supercharge it, and I was going to lift it. I might still do that, but I'm probably not going to do it while it's in warranty.
Okay.
And I haven't got time at the moment to get and set all this stuff up, and there's some other things I want to do. So I thought, you know what, I'll just leave that for now. With the Yaris, I know you're going to be doing tuning and stuff. I will probably never tune that car because I don't think it needs it.
Oh yeah, I mean let's be honest, most cars don't need tuning. It's just something for people to do. But the Yaris is, I mean, people are talking about uprated suspension for that, and there was a whole hoo-ha about big influencer and all this kind of stuff with the suspension kit. But that's one of the cars I drive, and I'm like, it doesn't need suspension for the road. Why would you want to touch it?
No, because I think it's really good. It's fun, but it's fair. It doesn't like crash or bang, and it just deals with bumps so well that, you know, these guys have spent a lot of time and money setting this car up, and they've set it up right. So maybe when I'd like to try the Litchfield car, I'd like to give it a go and see what it's like. But apparently it's lower, and I don't think I'd want it lower because part of the thing about it is the wheel travel and the ground clearance. But I would like to try it, see what it's like.
See what it's like, yeah. Yeah, so definitely. I mean, I haven't tried mine on track yet, but for road use, it's pretty much bang on, I would say.
I've driven it on track, and my racing driver mate, he's driven it on track, and he's blown away by it. He goes, no point doing anything to it.
Oh, well, something's happened to my... Give me a second. Something's happened to... Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know what happened there. Yeah, so what's going to be next after the Audi then, you think? You're going to get another sort of bigger car, long-termer? Oh, you're not allowed to say?
No, I am. Have a guess. Have a guess, Imran, what I might be getting next.
Is it an Audi again?
No, think of a car. Think of, especially for you, what you do. What's the big talk around? What's the performance car? What's the thing that's just about
Tesla?
No, I'm getting that as well.
You're getting that
I'm buying that. Carwow's going to buy one because we'll do loads of drag races. No, I'm getting an M3.
Oh, the new one. Okay, cool. Are you getting it on launch day?
So the launch is next week, and it should be short, not too long after.
Okay, because we're picking our one up on the 13th.
Are you? Okay. What colour you gone for? You got M3 or M4?
No, M3.
Yeah.
Well, so we ordered a Isle of Man green with Kalayami orange and black leather with the carbon seats and the ultimate pack. Yeah. And I got a phone call last week saying, if you want that order, it's delayed by like 2 months. And we can't afford to be waiting 2 months for the car. So I've had to take something that's in stock that doesn't have the carbon seats or the ultimate pack, but the colour's not that interesting, but it's nice. But no one knows what colour it is, so I'm not going to say what colour it is because this may come out before the review video. I'll tell you off cam what it is.
No, you know what? If you're not going to tell the listeners, then I don't want to know. I don't want any special privileges. I'll look out for it. I go, that colour's crap.
So yeah, we've gone for M3.
Okay.
You hope it's not what?
No, there's a couple of colours where I was offered for the launch. One was like this, like light grey, like a matty grey,
Brooklyn grey.
Brooklyn grey. That was nice.
Like the one we've got in our workshop at the moment.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, that one. So there's that. I like that. And then there was like a normal, like metallic grey, and then there was like a dark blue. I hope you haven't got the dark blue one.
No. That's Tanzanite, I think. It's not that.
That's a Tanzanite. It's like, I think we got an M440i Tanzanite. It's just like, who expect that? But shame about seats. Those seats are lush, especially really with the orange bit. And
they're really comfortable as well.
The carbon pack as well, with the because you get slightly different nose on it and stuff like that, don't you? And it just looks a bit better.
Yeah, it balances out the grill in the middle. We're not gonna talk about that. It's a bit of a sensitive subject.
Like redesigning the grill anyway.
We have, yeah.
So you're going to get on yours straight away?
Well, we have to, when the car comes, we have to scan the area underneath, like the bumper. So we've done the design work in terms of what we want it to look like. So we have to scan the bumper and then actually make it all fit. So we're going to get that done as soon as possible. But the tooling cost is huge. So we're talking to our distributors at the moment and saying, if the retail price is X, are you still interested in buying numbers? Because if they are not then interested, then we're not going to invest the money, because you're talking about a lot of money to tool. Like, it's like ends up being about 12 different pieces of plastic, like the bumper, then all the little trims inside to do it properly.
So, are you allowed to say
What tooling?
How much you're looking at for retail price on that thing, roughly?
I think retail we're looking at roughly £3,000.
Okay, so it's quite a lot of money then, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you've got to really not like the look of the grill.
Yeah.
How many do you need to sell, do you think?
Probably about 150 to 200, I think, to make the money back. So it's not a huge number. So we should be able to do it.
Can you fit it on the normal 4 Series?
No. Only M3 and M4.
Version?
Yeah, only the M version. Yeah. So, but I mean, you think about that, the price of that. I mean, we sell intakes for the old M3 and M4 for like £2,100. So it's only an extra £900 over that.
Do you know what? Actually, I think it could actually really, really work, because it will set it apart from the normal ones.
Correct.
People will be like,
well, it's different. What is that? Yeah.
Oh, it's so cool. What is it? Oh, it's the new nose for it. I mean, this is, although it'd be interesting to see how it actually looked, because I remember people doing the headlights packages for my version of the 996, because they hated like their fried eggs, so they did this thing. It never looked right. So it'd be interesting to see how it looks on the car.
Yeah, we won't do it if it doesn't look right. And I've actually got ex-OEM engineers to design it. So it looks like it would have been designed by an OEM designer, not some guy in a shed.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. So they take care of all of the angles and everything like that, and they understand the production processes. I mean, even the design process itself were very expensive. We were very fortunate to get the people working on the project that we have, because I can't say exactly who they are, but they've got a lot of experience in what they're doing on this brand.
Well, you know what you need to do? You need to get your car over to a drag race with us with the grill on it.
Yeah, we will do that.
Will you ship worldwide?
Yeah, of course. We UK makes up maybe 5 or 10% of our business, if that.
Okay. Are you going to give me a little, if I did like a link and stuff like that and promote it, you're going to give Carwow a little bit of a cut?
do you want to cut? This sounds suspiciously like a deal that I've been hearing about the last month or so. You want 25 grand and you want 25 grand and you want lifetime commission. Is that what you're aiming for?
No. I'll tell you what I'll do it for. I'll do it for a bag of sweets.
Bag of sweets. I've got you. Bag of sweets every month for the rest of your life. Down. I got you.
That's right. That's all I want.
Yeah. Cool. So that's your car collection done as well. So what do you see for the future for yourself? Because like, if I think you're doing Carwow and you're doing amazingly well, like, you must be asked this. The obvious question is, where do you go from here in terms of career advancement? Not necessarily in terms of business, but it's got to be Top Gear, right?
Well, I doubt it, because Top Gear is obviously, they've got their format down. Do you know what I'd like to do? Yeah. I would like to do not Top Gear, the next Top Gear.
Top Gear.
Top Gear.
Yeah. Okay.
Not necessarily. So I'd like to do something on Amazon. I'd like to do something on. It's unlikely to be Amazon because of obviously the Grand Tour. On Netflix. Before COVID, we were looking at this kind of thing. What we're going to do? We can do a TV show for that kind of format. For that kind of platform. Can we do that in-house? Can we do a pilot? Because we've got the resources to do it. You know, I know what makes good car content. I've done some TV shows before. But because of COVID, we never got round to it. and all we ended up doing is what I did instead. We've done I wrote and shot our TV advert. So I will be on your TV screens, but it will be in a 30-second advert that has to be paid for to be on your TV screens. So that'll be going live soon. The new Carwow TV advert.
I've seen the behind the scenes on yours and Sam's Instagram stories, so it's going to be interesting to see what that's like.
Yeah, I mean, it's very simple, direct response TV advert. It's nothing particularly glamorous, and it's just me saying some things. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would like to do something like that. I don't plan on leaving Carwow, and I'd like to do it in addition to Carwow because the channel's my baby. And once you step away from YouTube, you can get lost a bit. You can lose the momentum. You have to keep it up. It's such a hungry beast, and ultimately that is where everyone is watching video and spending a lot of time watching video. I don't watch any television at all. I'll watch Netflix, Amazon, now, so I'll watch movies, maybe some box sets, but mainly most of my things that I watch is YouTube. I just watch YouTube.
Yeah. Well, you can find anything you want, and you can draw so deep into every subject that you want to learn about.
Yeah.
Where else can you get that? If you like anything that's so like wild and wacky, you will find someone who's making content on that.
Alternatively, the algorithm sort of knows what you might like, and it ends up serving you up that content. And that's why I've recently become obsessed by watching wasp and hornet nest removal videos.
Really? There's stuff.
Honestly, so
Wow, I'm gonna search it after this. Yeah.
amazing. There's this guy called the hornet catcher who like goes into people's apartments and stuff and removes all these wasps, and he does this thing where he vacuums them up with a Henry Hoover, and he ends up with like this big vat of like wasps and stuff, and then he euthanizes them, which is really satisfying. And then he gets the grub, he squeezes the grubs out, which is satisfying as well, and then he feeds them to his chickens. It's nuts.
That's
and
crazy.
yet I can watch video after video of that kind of thing. You don't get that on the BBC. It'd all be kind of artfully shot, and it'd be narrated by David Attenborough about how wasps have their place in this world. Whereas this guy just annihilates the bastards, and it's awesome.
Yeah, so yeah, talking about really well polished content, I think I almost feel like when you make something really well polished and it's something that has to go on Netflix or Amazon. I've seen some real crap car content on Amazon. It's like I think they put anything on there. Like there's some really like poorly made stuff on there.
Oh, we can make it.
You can make it. But it's I think almost like, especially for YouTube, it's almost the less polished it is, the more relevant it feels to users.
It depends. Sometimes I think you can spend too much time doing polished content, and some manufacturers will do that, and it doesn't really add to it because a lot of people just watching in portrait on their phone. I watch all my videos in portrait because I like to see all the other videos there. I like to look at the comments while I'm watching this whole thing rather than just watching a video like that. But then there's the other side to it is that once you start doing something, you get an audience that likes that stuff. So you have to keep doing that sort of format again. So if someone who does high quality then goes, do not sod that, we're going to change tack, their audience will be like, what is this crap? The algorithm will go, wait a minute, that video they just posted, the audience doesn't like it. I'm not going to push it out to other people because it seems like one of their less hot videos. So I don't know exactly certain things. You need a certain standard, but it doesn't need to. What I do doesn't need to look beautiful, but it needs to look good enough. Shots have to be in focus. Car has to be clear. Has to be there's lots of shots. We have a lot of shots, so it's not boring. I'm not just talking non-stop. There's lots of shots of the car and stuff like that. But it's not beautiful in the way that some other channels are, like Carfection's more stylistic, Top Gear's more stylistic, lots of other things are. I mean, it doesn't matter so much for us, but I think it would for them. Who knows?
So you mentioned comments there, and we did talk about it briefly earlier on in the podcast about negative YouTube comments. Do you actually read the YouTube comments on the Carwow?
I read a lot of YouTube comments. I watch my own videos. I was actually I've been listening to lots of podcasts recently, and I was listening to one with Chris Harris talking about like the early days when he did Drive, and then some other things that he did. And he says he doesn't watch anything, never watches himself again. I know that Clarkson doesn't. I think I must be much more self-centered and egotistical because I watch all my videos again, and I watch them for seeing what I did wrong, seeing how I can make it better. I watch all my competitors' content. I watch everyone's stuff. I watch everybody. I don't watch everything from everyone, but I watch other people's stuff to get ideas, see where they're at, see why did that video go well, what did they do, what are their commenters saying. I watch non-car stuff as well to learn from that. Don't know if it helps me. Not as successful as Chris Harris.
You've had more views. You're the most viewed car content creator in the whole world.
Okay,
as you mentioned earlier.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay.
Depends what you measure success by. If it's views, mate, you're winning.
I don't think Chris Harris even knows who I am. So
he knows who you are. He knows who, mate. He knows who Joe Achilles is. No disrespect to Joe, but then he definitely knows who you are.
Yeah, but Joe's like kind of niche. Like if you're into like S&M sex, then you're gonna know about. You're gonna know about those special gags for your mouth, aren't you?
That must be on Joe's OnlyFans. I don't know about that.
Yeah, exactly. And Joe's the kind of like channel that if you're into cars, you'll probably watch. And this is one of the things that this is tangential now.
Yeah.
Like people like your channel might have a bit of a problem with, and Joe does, is that he doesn't have the numbers that we have. And he's not going to reach as many people as we have, but he does have a very focused audience because the people who might buy these products will go and seek him out.
Yep.
So anyway, back to the point, the comments. Yes, I read the comments. I read lots of comments and I try to interact with some of them. I never, ever, ever, ever respond to a negative comment. I won't get drawn into an argument. I'm not gonna argue with you. You know, if you want to slag me off or diss me, do you know what? Sometimes you've got a point. Sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I'm a dickhead. Sometimes I'm annoying. I watch myself back and I'm annoying. I make myself cringe. You've got a point. Sometimes you're just wrong and I can't be bothered to explain it to you. Sometimes you're just wanting to troll. Sometimes you've got some really useful advice and I'll use that and I'll use that to improve my video. So thank you very much. On the whole, commented positive. And when they are hurtful, which they sometimes have been, you do this self-defense thing that everyone who says something nice is clearly very normal, very sensible, and very well informed. Anyone who says anything that's bad is a complete moron. So you just trick yourself into thinking that they're an idiot. Where someone that says something nice is obviously an absolute genius. So you live in denial.
It's part of the process, isn't it? If you're going to put yourself out there, you're going to get negative comments, like because you can't please everyone. You
can't please everybody, and it's engagement. The algorithm likes it, and I have learned a lot from comments. But you also have to be aware of the comments because sometimes people can go, "Oh, that's ace! You did a brilliant job. You did that, great. Oh, it's awesome," and then you can end up like resting on your laurels, thinking, "Oh, yeah, we're awesome," and the numbers start declining. So read the bad comments, listen to them. They might teach you something.
Yeah, cool. So I think we're about ready to wrap this up. It's been really interesting talking to you and finding out your story because I didn't know it. Because every time I come on a Carwow shoot, obviously it's just go, go, go. You don't get a chance to actually sit down and talk. So I was really interested in finding out your background yourself and your journey that you've had to get to where you are. I'm going to leave you with one last question. That is Carwow Ultimate Drag Race that you haven't done. What would it be?
We've got something coming up, and I don't want to give it away. I did give it away on a stereo thing that I did with Yanni, but it's what would be the ultimate drag race? It is that drag race,
right? Okay.
You think about it. People are going to go down two avenues with that, and it's them both coming together. And we're getting that lined up because we've been offered the things that we need.
I think I know what it is. Because I've heard you. I think I've heard you mention it in person.
Okay,
but
it's a recent development.
Recent thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm interested to see that. Okay. It's you and Yanni having a running race. That's what it is.
Can't do that.
I know you've heard your knees are bad. I've heard your knees are bad.
My right knee's shot. I shot my right knee up. I'm doing squats too deep and damaged my meniscus. So that's my excuse. Because I actually think he'd probably beat me.
I don't know, man. My money will be on you, but
really,
we're never gonna know, are we? So
we're never gonna go. All I have to do is make the race long enough. I reckon I'll beat him over a distance
with stamina.
Yeah.
Well, he'll be checking his phone. He'll stop to check his phone.
That's how he'd win. What you'd do, you'd actually get a stick, right, with a piece of string, and dangling from the piece of string would be his phone, right, and he'd just be chasing after that, try and get his hands on it. And then he'd probably win.
Amazing. Okay, thank you very much, Matt. It's a pleasure having you on the show, and you're actually going to be the first guest on our podcast. So thank you very much for agreeing to this. And one day when all this is over and we can actually do a face-to-face sit down in the studio, I'd love to have you back on again.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Oh, I need to come to yours to try your dyno because I want to bring all my own cars to get them on the dyno to see what they're really doing.
Yeah, so dyno's in progress. We just had a bit of delays with the material at the moment, COVID bullshit. So it's getting done, and we're getting it done as soon as possible. So you're more than welcome to come down.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll do that.
Okay. Thanks, Matt.
Right. Bye-bye.